In the 1980s, stepping into the ring with Mike Tyson didn't just mean facing a heavyweight champion. It meant facing pure terror. Before the first punch was ever thrown, many fighters were already losing the battle in their minds. The moment Tyson walked out, no robe, no smile, just cold silence and that chilling stare. The entire arena felt it. Opponents watched him bounce on his feet like a coiled spring, knowing that within seconds the fight could be over. And more often than not, it was. Knockouts came so fast the crowd barely had time to react. Champions, contenders, veterans, one by one they crumbled under the same brutal storm. Tyson wasn't just beating opponents. He was destroying their confidence, their strategy, and sometimes their careers. For a brief, terrifying moment in boxing history, one question echoed across the heavyweight division. How do you survive a man who fights like a nightmare? By the mid-1980s, the heavyweight division had seen its share of dangerous fighters. Power punchers, tough champions, and fearless contenders had always been part of boxing's history. But when Mike Tyson arrived, everything changed. He wasn't just another knockout artist. Tyson brought a level of speed, violence, and relentless pressure that the heavyweight division had never truly seen before. Trained under the legendary Cus D'Amato, Tyson had been molded into something terrifyingly efficient, a fighter who combined explosive power with lightning-fast combinations and a ruthless killer instinct. But the real danger wasn't just his punches, it was the way he attacked. Tyson moved like a much smaller fighter, slipping punches, closing distance instantly, and unleashing devastating hooks and uppercuts before his opponent could even react. Soon, a pattern began to emerge. Fighters didn't just lose to Tyson. They were overwhelmed, broken, and sometimes finished before the fight had even truly begun. And as the knockouts piled up, one chilling realization spread across boxing. Tyson wasn't just winning, he was hunting. Long before the first punch landed, Mike Tyson had already taken control of the fight. It started with the walk to the ring. No flashy robe, no music meant to entertain the crowd. Tyson walked with a cold, focused stare, wearing nothing but black trunks and black boots. The silence around him was unsettling. Even before the bell rang, opponents could feel the pressure building. Fighters who had faced tough champions before suddenly looked different when Tyson stood across from them. Some avoided eye contact. Others moved nervously, bouncing on their feet as if trying to shake off the tension. Deep down, many of them already knew what they were up against. Tyson didn't just rely on power. His style was built on constant movement and explosive attacks. Under the guidance of Cus D'Amato, he mastered the peekaboo technique, slipping punches, moving his head rapidly, and closing distance in an instant. Then came the combinations, a crushing body shot, a lightning-fast hook, and suddenly, everything could be over. The terrifying truth was simple. Against most heavyweights, you had time to think, adjust, and survive. Against Tyson in the 1980s, you barely had time to breathe. For many fighters in the mid-1980s, Mike Tyson was still just a rising prospect. A dangerous one, sure, but still young, still untested against the toughest men in the division. That belief didn't last long. When Tyson faced Trevor Berbick in November 1986, the heavyweight championship was on the line. Berbick was not an easy opponent. He had gone the distance with Muhammad Ali in Ali's final fight and had even beaten Pinklon Thomas to win the WBC title. He was experienced, tough, and confident he could handle the young challenger. But once the bell rang, the reality of Tyson's power became impossible to ignore. From the opening seconds, Tyson charged forward with explosive speed. He slipped Berbick's punches, stepped inside, and unleashed brutal hooks to the body and head. The champion quickly realized this wasn't a normal heavyweight fight. Tyson was faster, stronger, and far more aggressive than anything he had prepared for. By the second round, the damage was overwhelming. Tyson landed a crushing combination that sent Berbick crashing to the canvas. The champion tried to stand, but his legs betrayed him. In one of the most famous moments in boxing history, Berbick stumbled and fell again while trying to rise. Just like that, the fight was over. At only 20 years old, Tyson became the youngest heavyweight champion in history, and the rest of the division suddenly understood something terrifying. The monster had arrived. If anyone in the heavyweight division still believed Mike Tyson could be stopped, the next brutal display quickly erased that hope. In 1988, Tyson stepped into the ring against Larry Holmes, a man many considered one of the greatest heavyweight champions in history. Holmes had dominated the division for years, defending his title again and again with skill, toughness, and one of the sharpest jabs boxing had ever seen. He had shared the ring with legends and had rarely looked vulnerable. But against Tyson, the fight felt different from the very beginning. Holmes, known for his confidence and ring intelligence, suddenly found himself retreating. Tyson moved forward with terrifying speed, slipping the jab and exploding with vicious combinations. Every punch carried the threat of ending the fight instantly. Round after round, the pressure kept building. Tyson attacked the body, then the head, never giving Holmes a moment to breathe. The veteran champion tried to survive, but the younger, faster fighter simply overwhelmed him. Then came the fourth round. Tyson unleashed a violent combination that sent Holmes crashing to the canvas. The referee began the count as the crowd roared, but Holmes couldn't recover in time. It was the first knockout loss of Holmes's legendary career. And for the rest of the heavyweight division, the message was chillingly clear. If Tyson could destroy a legend, what chance did anyone else have? By the late 1980s, Mike Tyson had already turned the heavyweight division into a place of fear. One by one, contenders had stepped into the ring with confidence and left with their careers shaken. But nothing captured that fear more clearly than Tyson's fight with Michael Spinks in 1988. Spinks wasn't just another challenger. He was undefeated, a former light heavyweight champion who had moved up and shocked the boxing world by beating the legendary Larry Holmes not once, but twice. Many believed Spinks had the skill and intelligence to finally challenge Tyson's dominance. Yet when fight night arrived, something felt different. As the fighters stood in their corners before the opening bell, cameras caught a moment that boxing fans would never forget. Spinks didn't look calm or confident. Instead, his expression showed something unusual for a champion: uncertainty. Across the ring stood Tyson, staring forward with cold focus. No emotion, no hesitation, just pure intent. When the fight finally began, the tension exploded instantly. Tyson rushed forward with his usual fury, throwing crushing hooks and uppercuts. Spinks tried to hold on, but the pressure was overwhelming. Only 91 seconds later, the fight was over. Spinks lay on the canvas as the crowd erupted. Tyson had defended his undisputed heavyweight crown in devastating fashion, and the message to every fighter watching was unmistakable. Even champions could not survive the storm. By 1986, the heavyweight division had already begun to fear what Mike Tyson was becoming. Fight after fight, the same brutal pattern kept repeating. The bell would ring, Tyson would explode forward, and within moments, another opponent would be staring up at the lights. But one fight perfectly captured just how quickly Tyson could end a night. When Tyson faced Marvis Frazier, many fans expected a competitive battle. Frazier carried a famous name, the son of heavyweight legend Joe Frazier, and he was determined to prove he belonged among the division's toughest fighters. The problem was that Tyson had no intention of giving him that chance. From the very first second, Tyson charged forward like a storm. There was no feeling out process, no slow build-up, just pure aggression. He slipped inside, unleashed a devastating left hook, and followed it with a crushing right hand. The entire sequence happened so fast that the crowd barely had time to react. Within 30 seconds, Frazier collapsed to the canvas, completely overwhelmed by the explosive combination. The referee quickly waved the fight off as the arena erupted in shock. It wasn't just another victory for Tyson. It was a terrifying reminder of what made him so dangerous. Against most fighters, you had rounds to adapt and recover. Against Tyson, one mistake could end everything instantly. By the late 1980s, the legend of Mike Tyson had already grown into something almost mythical. Opponents knew his reputation. They had seen the knockouts. They had watched champions crumble in seconds. Yet some fighters still believed they could survive his storm. Then came the night Tyson faced Tony Tubbs in 1988. Tubbs wasn't just another challenger trying to make a name for himself. He was a former WBA heavyweight champion with real skill, fast hands, and the confidence of someone who had already fought at the highest level. Many believed his experience might allow him to withstand Tyson's early aggression. But when the fight began, it became clear that experience alone wasn't enough. Tyson attacked with the same relentless intensity that had already terrified the division. He slipped punches, moved inside, and began landing brutal hooks to the body and head. Tubbs tried to counter, but Tyson's speed made it nearly impossible to keep up. Then it happened. In the second round, Tyson unleashed a vicious right hand that snapped Tubbs' head back and sent him crashing to the canvas. The referee stepped in almost immediately, stopping the fight as Tubbs struggled to recover. Another champion-level fighter had been demolished. By that point, the message had become impossible to ignore. During Tyson's prime, it didn't matter if you were experienced, talented, or even a former champion. Once the bell rang, no one was truly safe. For a brief, unforgettable moment in the late 1980s, Mike Tyson wasn't just the heavyweight champion. He was the most feared man in boxing. Fighters didn't just worry about losing, they worried about surviving. Every opponent knew that once the bell rang, a single mistake could change everything. Tyson's speed was terrifying, his power was devastating. But what truly made him unstoppable was the relentless pressure he brought into the ring. He attacked without hesitation, without mercy, and often without giving his opponents a chance to recover. That's why so many fights ended the same way, with another stunned challenger on the canvas and another roaring crowd witnessing history. In his prime, Tyson wasn't simply winning fights. He was creating one of the most frightening eras the sport had ever seen. And decades later, one truth about the 1980s still echoes through boxing history. No one could survive prime Mike Tyson.